Hello, this is video 15 in the endocrine system for anatomy and physiology. We are going to start talking about the adrenal cortex hormones in this video. And there are the three different regions of the cortex, each secrete a different type of hormone. All of these hormones are steroids. Which means that they are all lipid-soluble hormones. So, we are going to first look at the mineralocorticoids. And these are produced in the zona glom, I always have trouble pronouncing this, glomerulosa. And these affect levels of ions in your blood, specifically Na+, K+, and H+. And the one that we're going to look at is aldosterone. Aldosterone causes an increase in sodium ion reabsorption by the kidneys, which results in an increase in Na+ concentration in the blood. Now, because of this, this has a side effect. This can increase blood pressure. Because if we increase sodium in the blood, water comes along with that. So more water in the blood, that means that we have more blood volume, which increases the pressure. This also increases K+ and H+ excretion in urine, which tends to decrease the concentration of K+ and H+ in the blood. So if we have an increase in aldosterone in our body, it can cause a condition called alkalosis or high blood pH. We'll look at this more when we talk about the kidneys, because it helps with blood chemistry, it helps with kidney function, so this is tied into that. There are a lot of medications that work with blood pressure by altering this pathway. So our next one are the glucocorticoids, and these originate in the zona fasciculata. And the one that we're going to look at here is cortisol. Cortisol has a couple effects. This is always talked about in response to stress. So cortisol acts to break down skeletal muscle into amino acids. And then we can use the liver, takes these amino acids and breaks them into and converts them into glucose. It breaks down fatty acids. And it does that by breaking down adipose tissue. It decreases inflammation. So it does this by decreasing the number of white blood cells and the secretion of inflammatory chemicals. So there's a synthetic version of this that we use to help with inflammation called cortisone. So cortisone creams, which is a steroid cream, helps control inflammation, and it's based on cortisol. And this is released during stress. So a lot of times when people are under stress, they are more susceptible to getting sick, that is because our immune system is kind of hindered from the effects of this. So we are going to move to diagram number 15 in our diagram packet to look at how cortisol is affected in our body and how it is secreted. So with this diagram number 15, this is cortisol regulation. And the first thing that we're going to number these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So our stimulus up here is stress and low blood glucose. So either one or a combination can start this. So we are going to have the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary involved here with number 1. So we're going to have something called corticotropin releasing hormone, or CRH, is released by the hypothalamus. And that travels to the anterior pituitary via the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. So we have this CRH, and the CRH is triggered and released by the hypothalamus. It travels into the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system down into the anterior pituitary. The second one, the CRH stimulates secretion of adrenocorticotropic hormone, which we talked about during the pituitary. This is ACTH, from the anterior pituitary. Number 3, ACTH stimulates the secretion of cortisol from the adrenal cortex. And the effects of that we're going to label down here in this box. So here we have our target tissues, and there are a lot of them, but the majority, we have an increase in fat and protein breakdown, an increase in blood glucose, and we have a decrease in the immune inflammatory response. And this is, we have another arrow here, number 5. This has an auto feedback mechanism. So number 4, we have cortisol affects target tissues. And number 5, cortisol has a negative feedback where it inhibits corticotropin releasing hormone. So it will, once we have a buildup of cortisol in our blood, if the stress and glucose level, stress decreases and glucose goes back up, we have a negative feedback, so it will shut off the production of cortisol. But periods of high stress, we can keep on having this cortisol being secreted in small amounts, and it builds up in the body. So we have to be very careful with that. The next video is going to talk about our third type of hormone and some of the disorders that can result from insufficiency or hypersecretion of adrenal hormones.